What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. I hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. So I thought I would come on here and talk about one of my favorite TV shows of all time, probably one of the best TV shows ever created, and that's The Cosby Show, right? Now, everybody can criticize Bill Cosby for certain things that we found out about him, so on and so forth. And I've had my critiques about Bill Cosby and the whole pound cake speech, so on and so forth. But the way he presented black folks on TV was outstanding. It was exemplary. The shows he created were so they're etched in black culture, American culture in general, but black culture for real. Like, they are so etched in our culture. They cannot be removed. They can't be tarnished. None of the sort. But that Cosby Show, y'all, that Cosby Show did something to my spirit as a young black man living on the south side of Chicago in the hood, right? Now, I have to be honest about this. I did not get on to the Cosby Show until I was about 11 years old, 11 going on 12, around that time. You see, I was born in 1993, so I'm 32 years old. Like, when the Cosby Show was in its prime, I was an itty bitty kid, for real. And I wasn't born first. Then I was an itty bitty kid. So, like, I wasn't able to, you're not able to appreciate a show when you're 5, 6 years old. You want to watch Power Rangers. You want to watch cartoons, so on and so forth, right? And then you get up in age, you get more mature, and you start watching other sitcoms. The Cosby Show would come to Nick at Night. It came on Nick at Night at some point in the early 2000s, right? And I would watch The Cosby Show on there. I remember the first time I watched it, I was in awe. I love the show for so many reasons. The show spoke to me, and I remember I couldn't pinpoint why exactly I was so drawn to the show, other than it was just a great show. But now I know exactly why. This show exemplified, it showed black excellence all the way around. The show was unapologetically black. But the show wasn't centered around money problems. They didn't have financial woes. And as a black man, as a young black boy on the south side of Chicago, we had financial woes. You know, I saw black folks on TV having financial woes and so on and so forth on shows like Good Times, another sitcom that I would watch all the time, right? And so to see a black family, educated black family, professionals living in prominence, and still being unapologetically black at the same time, that was beautiful for me. Like, these are black folks. There's no hiding it. You know they black all the way through and through. Claire Huxtable was the perfect illustration of a black mama. She was the perfect, I don't know if illustration is the word, but she was the perfect example of a black mama all the way through and through. She didn't take no mess. You wasn't going to mess over her kids. You wasn't going to just do what you wanted to do. You weren't going to do any of that. And you weren't going to be disrespectful to her in any way. But she was a loving mom, a caring mom, an active mom. You felt her warmth come across the screen. And I'm like, yo, and again, I had the biggest crush on Felicia Rashad. I wish I was born way back then so Felicia Rashad could have been my wife. Like, oh my God, I love Miss Felicia Rashad, you know? But anyway, man, her elegance, radiant woman, you could feel it come across the screen. But yeah, man, like the core, the essence of these people were black folks. Even though they were living very upscale. They were living, what's the word I'm looking for? They were affluent. But the essence of them it was black all the way through and through, but they didn't have money problems. And I love to see that from black. Like, they not worrying about trying to scrap up some change or nothing like that to try to make stuff happen, because a lot of black folks have those experiences. A lot of us come from those experiences trying to figure out, you know, how the rent gonna get paid, how this bill gonna get paid, how that bill gonna get paid, and what we gonna do for this, that, and the third. All of these, try to figure out all these financial solutions to problems, or we having financial problems in general. And it was not an issue on the Cosby Show, but black people were allowed to be black and be black while being economically in great standing. And I love that, right? And then let's talk about what this show represented, man. I was on live stream earlier today, and I was talking about shows like A Different World and The Cosby Show, and like how A Different World, it sent a lot of black folks to college, to HBCUs specifically, right? This show promoted education and higher education, right? You see the kids, when Theo was struggling with his grades, you know, Theo wanted to have a heart-to-heart with Cliff Huxtable. And he's like, yo, you just love me for your son. And, you know, so on and so forth. And you thinking it's about to be a heartfelt moment. And he said, son, that is the stupidest stuff I ever heard in my life. Now, you just being lazy. You don't want to do the work. You don't want to be a good student. You can do it, so on and so forth. And pushing, like, because that reminded me of my parents, pushing me to be excellent. You know what I mean? And because they knew I could do it, not because they thought I really had problems or issues and I really couldn't do it. They knew I could, you know what I mean? So it was a pushing thing, and I eventually ended up getting a full ride academic scholarship to Mississippi Valley State University and HBCU, right? But yeah, man, like the kids, they doing well in school, you know, when they're younger, and then you see their oldest daughter, Sandra, right? She's at Princeton University, where she meets her husband. She meets a man who would eventually become her husband, Elvin. You see Denise go off to Hillman, a fictional HBCU that Heathcliff and also Claire Huxtable both graduated from. You see Theo go to NYU, right? So planting the seeds of the importance of education. We see Theo go from a struggling student in, you know, his elementary school years or middle school years, so on and so forth. We come to find out he has dyslexia. Dyslexia. I almost said a crazy word, but yeah, he has dyslexia. And that's another problem that is tackled on the show, dyslexia. Kids, and I have to remember the exact, what dyslexia is, the exact definition of it. But it's like when people, they struggle, they see things and they're seeing words and numbers as something else rather than what it really is, so on and so forth, I believe is what it is. I think that's what it is. That's how I can describe it. Right? And you see Theo not advance beyond that. You see him rise above those challenges of dyslexia to become a great student. I think Theo even started teaching youth at one point in the show, from what I remember. Right? The other elements that they tackle in the show, you see teen pregnancy with one of Denise's friends. Trying to, I think she was trying to purposely get pregnant or something like that, I believe. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. You see dyslexia come up. You see pressure for sex, which comes through the character that Erica Alexander plays, cousin Pam, who moves in with the Huxtable family, right? Y'all know Erica Alexander from Living Single. She was Maxine Shaw, attorney at law. She comes onto the show and brings a different dynamic. In comes her friends, Charmaine, right? What is the woman? Charmaine, is it Melinda White, her name, I think is, or Karen White, Melinda, Karen White. I forget her name. I'm so sorry. I got to remember this woman's name. But she comes on to the show. She played Eddie Griffin's girlfriend on Malcolm and Eddie, right? She comes onto the show, and also Lance. Lance is played by Alan Payne. And at one point in the show, Erica Alexander, she's dating a guy who's pressuring her for sex. And Lance got to check him about trying to pressure her for sex, you know? And that's a real thing that young girls face. You saw the step parenting through the lens of Denise when she marries, what was her husband's name? I think it was Martin, I believe his name was. Martin had a daughter who would be Olivia, aka Raven Simone, right? And we see her become a step parent after not having any children of her own, and, you know, having to learn how to be a parent and learn how to love on a child and learn how to be step into that role, which Claire Huxtable helps her with, right? It's a lot of different things. The way the show would highlight Black artistry. When we see that painting, it was an episode called The Auction, where I believe Claire Huxtable wins a painting by the late great Ellis Wilson, the funeral procession picture, right, that hangs in the Huxtable home on the show. We see that painting get highlighted. The painting called Birthday by Varnett P. Honeywood. Now, Varnett P. Honeywood, She is a co-creator of Little Bill. She was the illustrator for the Little Bill books for beginning readers, and then later on she would design the character for the TV show Little Bill that Bill Cosby created, so on and so forth. Barnett P. Honeywood, amazing artist, graduate of Spelman College. She was a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, so on and so forth. But yeah, man, highlighting Black artistry when we see Stevie Wonder come onto the show. Right, and the kids meet Stevie Wonder in the studio, and we see Theo jamming on the one, right? I remember that, it's ingrained in my mind, right? We see Sammy Davis Jr. from the Rat Pack. He makes an appearance on the show, and I remember it was a big deal because he couldn't read, and Claire was trying to prove she was like, I don't think he can read, and Cliff thought she was tripping. Right? And she said, how would you spell your name? She said, would it be with 1 T or 2 T's? He said, that would be 2. And his name was a name that did not have any T's in it. I forgot what it was. And she was showing that he was illiterate, you know, but she wasn't making fun of him. But she was noticing certain things about him. But Sammy Davis Jr. being on the show. I remember when Malcolm Jamal Warner was impersonating James Brown, the Godfather of Soul. You saw highlighting the career and the achievements of individuals like Duke Ellington, Lena Horne, Miles Davis, so on and so forth. Man, this show it was Black excellence just oozing through the TV. And I fell in love with this show. Then we saw gender roles being challenged, which is like, man, that's really key. And it was presented often through the dynamic between Elvin, the husband or the boyfriend at that time, the boyfriend of the Huxtable's oldest daughter, Sandra. Elvin would clash with Claire Huxtable because I remember he would come with all these gender roles. You know, Mr. Huxtable, you're cooking? Isn't that for the women? The women should be cooking. And Claire Huxtable would check him like, no, she would be like, no. Mr. Huxtable, he cooks in his household too. Mr. Huxtable, I'm stuttering over Mr. Huxtable. Mr. Huxtable, he cooks. It's not just Mrs. Huxtable that does that. You know, it's not, you know, he doesn't, I'm not the only one who cleans in his house. Mr. Huxtable cleans as well, so on and so forth. And she would check him about all of these gender roles that he had in his mind and about, you know, the equality that did not exist, you know, between man and woman. She would challenge these things. You saw moments where Denise dropped out of school with no plan and had to live, trying to find a place to live. And the places that she was trying to look that were cheap were just crazy looking places. And they were like, you can put the baby in the drawer if you have a little kid. Because Martin and Denise were trying to find a place. They're like, you can put Olivia in the drawer for her to sleep. And it was like, it was craziness, man. But it was showing the reality of life. And man, I'm stuttering over it. But the way it was presented, it was done so well. For Black folks to be painted in such a positive, beautiful light. You saw the love between Claire Huxtable and Heathcliff Huxtable. You saw the love between the Huxtable parents. Oh my God, what is his name, man? Is it Earl Hyman? Earl Hyman? He played Panthro on the Thundercats. I forget the woman's name, but they played Heathcliff Huxtable's parents on the Cosby Show. The love between them was beautiful. The love between Claire and Cliff was amazing, right? You saw Black love on TV, Black love and a Black couple thriving with their beautiful families, you know, and loving and growing and nurturing their babies. That was a great sight to see. Outstanding sight to see. Then you saw the difference in their parenting styles. Claire Huxtable was more stern and hard-nosed than Heathcliff. Cliff wasn't playing, but Claire was not a game. You could not play with her. I remember when they got to the bottom of Theo and Cockroach making fun of a lady at a restaurant and her weight and so on and so forth. And she checked them about it, right? Claire checked them about it. She wasn't playing no games. You wasn't going to do what you wanted to do in a household. Cliff wasn't going to let you do it either. They both had differing parenting styles, but it was for the same result, if that makes any sense, man. their parenting styles complemented one another, even though they were different. And they had different techniques to get the kids to understand certain things. And both worked very, very well. And it just showed the difference in parenting styles and how it's okay to have different parenting styles as long as they complement one another and they back each other up. You can't play good cop, bad cop with one parent, and one parent lets you get away with everything, the other one lets things slide. Like, no, we got to be on one accord, and they were always on one accord with one another. Great episodes. I remember the love of Huxtable's love of hoagies and all of that, man, and bacon burger dogs. Man, I love that show. I even remember an episode, excuse me, my neck was hurting. I remember this episode where Cockroach and Theo went on this little dance show that was televised. And Theo he wanted to act like, he didn't want to, because they was like, look, only one of y'all can come in this room on this show. And Theo was like, no, you take it, Cockroach. And Cockroach was like, no, you take it, Theo. Theo was like, no, you take it, Cockroach. Cockroach was like, okay, cool, bye, right? And it's like, no, you got to say what you mean and mean what you say. Yes, that's your friend. You don't want to hurt Cockroach's feelings, but you want to go dance because it was a fine woman on the show that you could dance with on the show. And Cockroach was all on TV dancing with her. And he was hurt about it because he was like, yo, Cockroach really took the ticket and went in there and danced with the woman. And Claire was like, no, you should have told Cockroach, I'm sorry, Cockroach, you my brother, I love you, but I got to go dance with my woman up in there. And that was real spell, man. And yeah, man, the show was just done so beautifully, man. And seeing black folks on TV thriving without money issues, it uplifted my soul and my spirit, you know, considering that we've had money issues and problems. And I was just like, wow, look at black folks on here. Heathcliff Huxtable is an OBGYN, helping to deliver babies, so on and so forth. And then you have Claire Huxtable, who is a lawyer. She's an attorney, like, and they living in this beautiful house, and man, and they raising their children. It's all love. Black love like that is just beautiful to see, man. Let me know what y'all thoughts were about the Cosby Show. Machiavelli Mills TV. I'm out, y'all. Peace.